What are we celebrating on Purim? God made a miracle and he saved us. How did he save us? What was the miracle that he did for us? I'm going to ask a question now. The climax of this story, at least from a cinematic point of view, seems to be when Esther asks the king to come to a party, and then the second party, and then she reveals to Achashverosh that Haman is our enemy, and he wants to kill all of us, all my people. And the king gets angry, and then Charvona says, let's hang him on the gallows that he built for Mordechai. That's a very climactic moment. That's like, okay, the villain is gone, right? In any movie, when the villain is gone, so that's, you got the credits come out, right? The villain is gone. And now let's just analyze what happens for a moment. So now Esther tells Achashverosh exactly who Mordechai was. I'm sure she left out the part that he was her husband. But she says, this is Mordechai, my uncle. And now he brings Mordechai in. And they come up with a solution. But before the solution of Achashverosh is presented, Esther begs. She falls, I guess, to the ground and she begs, please, please, if you love me, I'm your queen. Just take back the evil decree that my people should be annihilated. Please, you're the king. Do this once. Save my people. And this should be the climactic moment where the king says, for you, no. Is that what he should say? What should he say? Yes. He should say yes. What does he say? You can imagine it's the end of the final scene in the movie. And it's the music, we're all about to cry, and no. What? No? How could you do that? That's not how you end a movie. And what happens after this? About 11 months, the Jews have to carry on living with a noose over their head. With a death warrant on every head, from the babies that are going to be born. Death threat on all their heads. Yes, because there was still this edict from the king, this decree, that said that in the following year, on the 13th of Adar, which is coming up, every Jew hater in the world, which is a lot of people, don't think anything's changed, it's just like it is now, it was then, are going to have it's open season on the Jews. And usually the Jew haters are more numerous than the actual Jews, and they have more weapons, and they have more anger and more hate, and they're more evil. And so why were we not just sitting ducks waiting to be massacred in 11 months? Okay? We're going to address that question as well. But that was what was laying over their heads for 11 months. So we want to address a few questions. Number one, why didn't Hashem just come and save the day? Right? God decided to make a miracle. And that miracle showed that Hashem was with the Jewish people, and he saved them from Haman. But why did he allow the decree of Haman to hang over their heads for another 11 months? Right? That's a question. And also, when the king himself says, okay, what's his solution? I can't take back my decree, but what I can do is I'll give you my ring, we'll play again with the game with my ring, I'll give you my ring, and I'll let you write whatever decree you want to write. And so they get the ring, which is really the authority of the king, and they write a new decree. And this is the most amazing thing. If I was a producer of a movie and the writer of the script or the director tells me, and listen to this, you're going to love this next part. And they write a decree that they could fight back. I'm like, what? That's no. We got to come up with a different idea. But of course Hashem knows better. And the response was, okay, write a decree that you want, whatever decree you want. And they wrote a decree that all the Jews could stand up and fight for themselves. Shkayach, if somebody gave me an opportunity to fight back, if Mike Tyson wanted to fight me, what kind of an opportunity is that? I can fight Mike Tyson. Great. What can I do against Mike Tyson? Nothing. Even though he's older, I'm also older. I still can't do nothing. What was accomplished with this decree that said we can fight back? Shkayach, we can fight back. We can come weak, outnumbered, less trained in warfare, and fight back these animals and get killed and slaughtered. So how is it at all a positive thing? Okay, those are what we want to address now. And what this will bring us to is a real understanding of the miracle of Purim that we are celebrating. Because the question that we started with was, why do we celebrate Purim? Why a miracle? What's the nature of this miracle? And I'll add another question. How many miracles are we celebrating? Okay? So If it was one miracle that we were celebrating, then the movie would have been over. And and Achashverosh would have said, yes, my queen, I'll do this one time for you, and the decree would have disappeared. That would have been if the story was about one miracle. And which miracle would that have been? The miracle that Blake mentioned and the miracle that Daniel mentioned. The miracle that Hashem killed Haman and took away our enemy. And like he said, Hashem put circumstances in such a way that Haman was hung with the same gallows he built, and so on and so on. And when you look in retrospect, you see that Hashem was really behind the scenes the whole time, pulling the strings, doing everything. So you see that Hashem was with us from day one till now, and Haman was hung, and the king said yes, and that would be the end of the story, because that's only miracle number one. Miracle number one of the Purim story is the hidden hand of God that never leaves us, because His love ultimately never leaves us. Hashem is always there. No matter in the darkest of moments, He's not only there, He's more there in the good moments. There's a beautiful picture, postcard type of picture that's called Footsteps. It shows two sets of footsteps, and then all of a sudden there's only one set, and then again there's two. And there's this person, so to speak, asking God, you know, in my most difficult times, when I needed you most, I looked for you and you were gone. And that's where there's only one set of footsteps.
They're overlapping.
And he says, you know, in those moments that you looked and only saw one set of footsteps, those were my footsteps. I was carrying you. God never leaves us, ever, not even for a second. In fact, before the first word of the Megillah was written, the word Vayihi, God was already pulling the strings and creating our salvation before the first word of the Megillah. I'll ask a few quick questions and it'll become very clear. Where was the capital city of the Babylonian monarchy that took over the world and took the Jews and killed them and took them out of Israel? Where was that capital? It was in the city of Babylon, right? Achashverosh took over that kingdom, and his capital city and his palace and his throne was in Bavel. What happened? He decided that he wants a throne identical to the throne of King Solomon, because he had this unbelievable throne and he wanted a throne. Because for him, being a king wasn't about really being a king, it was about having that throne. So he wanted the throne. So he went to the expert throne makers in the entire world. Where were the greatest throne makers in the entire world located? Happens to be Shushan. They were like like if you want your custom-made Rolls Royce, you got to go to, I guess, England somewhere. So if you want your custom-made King Solomon throne, you got to go to Shushan and have them build it for you. Now, everyone happened to make a big mistake, you'll see in a second. So they built him this throne. And now they had this, throne that weighed I don't even know how much. In those days, it was impossible to ship it. They didn't have Amazon, ship. You couldn't get it shipped overnight in a day, this 10-ton thing. So what did they do with it? It was too big to ship. Now, what was the mistake that all these geniuses made? They didn't realize once it's built, you can't move it. And that should be something that they shouldn't have made. And here we see an expression how God makes the wise ignorant and stupid, because He took that idea out of their heads so they would mistakenly build it in Shushan. Why? Because he knew that the king Achashverosh wants that throne so badly. What's he going to do? So what did Achashverosh do? Achashverosh said, it's time to move our capital city. We'll move our kingdom. We'll move our palace and the throne to Shushan. So imagine, usually you bring the throne to the king. You don't bring the king to the throne. And here, Achashverosh went and moved his entire capital city and the palace and his throne to Shushan. Why? Why did he move it to Shushan? Because that's where Mordechai and Esther lived. So before the first word Vayihi, Hashem already brought the king of the world to Shushan to face Mordechai and Esther. And of course, in that showdown, Mordechai and Esther won. So that's Hashem and His love, that it never escapes us. So even within the decree, when Hashem, because of the midah of din, His din, the justice and judgment of Hashem said that the Jews deserve to be annihilated. Everyone, from baby to grandpa, everyone will be wiped out. In that decree, when that decree was written, it was written with the intent that I'm already going to bring the salvation, I'm already going to bring the remedy to this problem before the problem. And before the first word Vayihi, Hashem is pulling the strings. And so that reality that Hashem was pulling the strings from the first letter of the Megillah only becomes apparent to us, the people living in the story, the Jewish people, when Haman is hung. Because when Haman is hung, there's a revelation there. There's this miracle, this banner that screams, I am here. Hashem says, I am here. And we realize, wait a minute, how'd you get here? You were gone until now. Where'd you get here? How'd you get here? The answer is look back. When you look back at the story, so then you see that God was here now, and He was here one step before when The king happened to be awake in the middle of the night asking to read the Chronicles, and the page kept on falling on the page of Mordechai's story because that's what had to be read. And so on, back to killing Vashti, and back to even being in Shushan on a ridiculous throne that he had to have. So it's Hashem pulling the strings from day one. But that's only realized when we see the end. And so when we look back at the story, that's miracle number one. That Hashem never leaves us, Hashem never stops loving us, and Hashem is always taking care of us. And when we think it's hard to move forward, it's because He's doing all the work, not because we're doing all the work. Okay, that's lesson number one. That's miracle number one. What's miracle number two? Miracle number two is that Hashem did not save us when Haman was killed, but instead He forced us to face our enemies in a physical battle, a physical war, a one-day war against all the Jew haters in the world. Why did He force us to do that? Why? Why didn't He just get rid of the problem? And the other question, what was the gain in Mordechai writing a decree that we could fight back? So what? If I let a child fight some animal, some man that's twice the size, twice the strength, so how am I helping the child? So I think there's a few answers that we want to touch on. So one of the ideas is this. God is the source of what's happening to us in the Purim story, meaning He's the one who came up with this decree. He is the one who empowered Haman to write the decree. The decree really, Haman was just a tool. Haman was God acting through Haman and Achashverosh to write the decree. But what was the purpose of the decree? The decree was only meant to wake us up. It was only a reminder, you guys are sleeping, you guys are lost. I'm giving you a reminder, a wake-up call. It wasn't a real decree to kill us. It was only a decree to wake us up. And since the initial decree never really carried the strength to actually kill us, so it was really an empty decree. So in the deeper reality, the divine reality that's happening right now is our lives were never really in danger. What was the point? The point was us to wake up from our mistaken path of life that we chose. We chose to be scared of the king and of his kingdom. We chose to love the king and his kingdom. We basically betrayed God, and Hashem said, I want you back. So the decree was only to bring us back to Him, and there was no real risk to our lives. He just wanted us back. So what happened? That's the 11 months. We had 11 months to reprogram ourselves, to change who we were, to change ourselves from the assimilated, scared Jew of the world he faces to an empowered Jew full of faith and trust and loyalty and devotion to Hashem. And after 11 months of this boot camp training, we reached the point where we merited that the divine will came through us. When I picked up a sword in that fight, even though I was weak and outnumbered, when I picked up a sword, I was picking up a sword with Hashem. And we all together brought down this divine protection and this divine providence that was miraculous. And the biggest part of this miracle that it came through me. It wasn't a fireball that came from heaven. It wasn't the splitting of the sea. It was me. That was a vessel through which the divine will was manifest, and this great miracle that happened at the end of the story, and that is the military victory over our enemies. And I'll ask you we'll do a numbers game. We know exactly how many of our enemies were killed because the Megillah records it. How many were killed in the first day, how many were killed in the second day when there was this continued battle in Shushan. How many Jews were killed in this battle? In any hand-to-hand combat battle with knives, with rocks, with whatever, with fists, how many Jews were hurt? How many Jews were killed? Anyone have an idea?
0.
Yes. The number is 0. 0. And this brings us to what I think is the greatest miracle that ever occurred in the history of life, history of the world. In that war that we fought against our enemies, 0 Jews were killed. 0. What a miracle. It's the only natural miracle that I think breaks the rules of nature because that's impossible. So it's a supernatural, natural miracle that He did at the end of the story when every single Jew was spared, protected by God, and at the same time every single enemy and every single hater was killed. And that's 100% love and 100% protection. I think it could be expressed like this. Hashem is, so to speak, telling Haman, you fool, you want to kill all my children? I'm not going to let you have one. Not even one, because if we would have killed one, then He would have fulfilled His goal to kill one Jew that He wanted to kill. And so Hashem said, you're getting none this time. None. And that's really the end of our story. Hashem says, my people, they're all mine. And in the final Geula, it's going to be all of us together with Him in this final Geula. And so the Purim story is a prelude for the final redemption that's coming in the end of days. And that's the reason why the joy of Purim is the greatest joy of all, because it was a perfect 100% expression of Hashem's love and protection. And it's the prelude to the final Geula that Hashem promises that it's coming. So that now we have a new appreciation of the actual miracle of Purim that maybe almost overshadows the first miracle, but they both work together, because really the final miracle is also the idea of God behind the scenes working through us, with us, to bring about the divine will. And that's what the story is really all about, is that ultimately the experience of life is a fusion of the divine will and human participation to create the reality that is this gift that Hashem gives us, this gift of life, because it's something we create together. Creation, Hashem says, I want partners in this creation of life. I don't want to do it myself. And He forces us, when we're sleeping, He forces us to wake up and come back and do this job together with Him. He woke us up in the story of Purim because we are essential. If we don't do our part, then the story cannot unfold. And so He woke us up to become partners again with Him in bringing about those miracles. And we today must wake up now and realize that this is the Purim story right now. Purim 2023 is happening right now. We have to wake up and become partners with Hashem and allow His divine will to come through us and finally see an end to our story, the final Purim story, which is going to be the final Geula. And it's ironic and interesting that the only holiday that it says we will celebrate forever, from all the Jewish holidays, and we had tons of them. I'm sure we'll have lox and bagels and cream cheese also, but the only holiday that is a forever holiday is the Purim holiday. It says it in the Megillah that we will never stop celebrating Purim. All the other holidays are going to be canceled on some level, except for Purim, because Purim is the link to Mashiach and to the final Olam Haba that we're waiting for, B'ezrat Hashem.